And good afternoon, good evening, good
Good
night,
morning.
good morning. Yeah, I was trying to say the Truman Show
Exactly.
line. Welcome to the Music Lounge. We're back with another amazing episode. Perry,
We
how are you?
do. Yes. So today we have a former colleague of ours who was in the celebrity talent part of the music and talent team at MTV. She was formerly manager at MTV and was most recently at Apple and Dick Clark Productions and is a talent relations executive. Please welcome Sara Kantathavorn.
Hi,
Woohoo!
you
Hi,
Nice to
guys.
see
Sarah.
you. You're in
Thank
LA,
you.
right?
I'm White.
Are you in Los Angeles?
I am in sunny LA. And we are now going into the second weekend of Coachella. So it's
I
a
was
good
going to say, why are you home?
yeah, it's a good weekend to be home. I'm actually not a Coachella girl. I'm a
Okay,
stagecoach girl. So I
that's a
will be
good
heading
one.
to the desert next Thursday.
Yeah, I got friends that were there. Well, both this weekend and last weekend. To me, there wasn't a massive go-to artist to make the trip, and especially if I'm not in any working capacity, it
Yep.
really has to be something special. And I think Friday night's lineup was pretty good. With I know Chase and Status was they're an English DJ. They're a big favorite of mine, but it wasn't like a massive draw for me. And
I
a
think
lot of
it's bigger than last year, at least. I feel like
yeah.
last year kind of fell flat. So it wasn't.
Negative press too. People were slamming on, the lines getting in, the bathroom lines. There's no feeling of love there, I read today.
I think it's also the prices have gone up dramatically. So like
Yeah.
for two tacos, it's $30, which I think is,
There's a payment plan, right? Did I
yep.
read a payment plan? That is fucking crazy.
No,
If you can't afford to go, don't go, but don't raise prices that you have to put people on a payment plan for a taco.
wild.
Yeah.
No.
Who were the headliners last weekend and this weekend?
Gaga, Green
Green
Day,
Day, yeah.
Post Malone.
Okay.
Missy
Yeah.
was there, right?
Missy was
Missy's
there.
there.
Yeah. Yo Gabba Gabba was there.
Yeah.
That's
Chasing
funny.
Status.
Yeah, there was a lot of like fun, random artists or
Like the Go-Go's were there.
yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
So
I feel like Stagecoach has kind of taken over the hype that Coachella had. And I think it's just because, country's become such a big genre in music overall. So it'll be interesting to see what next week is like. They've got Jelly Roll, Luke Combs.
I think artists like Jelly
oh
Roll can really bring a different audience to Stagecoach that may not normally go because
Yeah.
he's a big crossover artist.
is
Yeah.
it Shabuzi?
Shabuzi was actually at Coachella.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So,
All right.
yeah.
Well, I have never been to Coachella. So I
Been
think
a
at
few
this age
times.
I might be past my prime for that. So that's all right.
I said this
Um
last year. My last year. It's too crazy.
yeah.
But the job I had before MTV was in a boutique PR firm. And I'm going to date myself, but I worked there at the end of 99 and 2000. I went to MTV in 2000 and we worked the first
Yep. That's
two
first.
Coachellas. So I got to work the photo pit for the
That's
main
fun.
stage
Wow.
for the
It
first
was,
two.
I think until about the early 2000s, it was very rock heavy. It
Yeah.
didn't have a lot of hip hop or K-pop or anything else up
And that,
until,
No.
and that year that they booked like a pop princess, it just changed.
yeah.
Or it wasn't, a different vibe.
Yeah.
But
You've had quite a career working in music talent and influencer space at places like MTV and Apple and Dick Clark Productions. But how did your career start and how did you know that this was what you wanted to do with your career?
Well, I think I've always been a gal that I loved award shows. Like I just loved it. It was like something that was just to be able to turn on the TV and watch all of your favorite celebrities and artists just on one stage. And obviously back in the day, I think television and radio were so much more special because you didn't have the internet, YouTube, all of these different things. So you had to sit on your couch and you had to watch something and you had to really commit to it. And I just remember thinking, I want to be in this world with all of my favorite people that I love and admire. So I didn't have an in. I just doctored up a resume and went to a temp agency back in the day. And they needed somebody to cover 2 days for a long term temp at ABC Entertainment. So
Hmm.
I was really stoked to go in. It was for the casting department. And the long term temp, it was her birthday. So she didn't want to go in that Thursday and Friday. She wanted to celebrate, start Monday. So I came in and it was ABC was moving from Century City to Burbank. So I had to pack up basically their entire VHS casting room with all of the suits. So that was my job.
VHS.
I know, VHS. So I was just in this room by myself for 2 days, probably as big as this room right now. And I just loved being a part of like holding tapes that had like Matt Damon or Brad Pitt or all these names of people that I really loved.
Did you ever put any in and have a little peek?
I didn't then, but when I got the job, it was my favorite thing to do. So I went to the head assistant and I was like, I love this. I love being here. I love the energy. And they called the long-term temp, called her off and let me stay because I loved it so much.
Wow.
And that started my career. And I was at ABC for 2 years. And I just remember like, all of these big stars would come in and I just loved the energy. It wasn't about like, I just wanted to be around that energy of greatness and bigness and stuff. And I was telling a friend the other day, I was looking through my stuff and I did take a Matt Damon headshot when I left. I probably shouldn't say that, but I did. And after I left there, I actually joined the Viacom family. I went to work at Nickelodeon on their casting and talent team. So that is where I really found my love for talent and just booking and working in this world of like fantasy, I guess make believe and just like glitz and glamour. It's been a really wild ride and very different from early 2000s to 2025. The world, I'm sure as you guys know, has shifted so much.
Well,
Um,
the word influencer really did not exist when we all were starting out at MTV. I mean, that's crazy. And the other part about it too was at that time, in order to see a celebrity as part on your television, it was a late night talk show or an award show. Now they're all over social media. You can see them wherever and whenever you want. But
yeah.
as you just said, I mean, that was sort of the same thing with me. I was so into the idea of working with celebrity talent. That's where I started at VH1. And once I started doing it, I was just hooked. And I started in a temp position also.
Oh, wow.
So
Look at us.
yeah,
Twinsies.
absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
Twinsies.
Uh,
It seems like
um,
to me when you were like sitting watching award shows, you were piecing together, how does this all work? And then when you got that temp job, you weren't like in a starstruck position. You were just career focused, and that was your buzz. Versus, yes, I'm sure if you're sitting in a room with Matt Damon, that's going to be a little weird, but you
I
were
think,
just probably very grounded from
yeah.
day
And
one.
starting in casting was great for me because I used to have to put together tapes for talent that we wanted for different projects. So there was this place called Vidiots that just closed down. It's very big. It was very big back in the day. And we would get all these video tapes of actors that we wanted to, bring to our executives. So I would piece together different scenes from different films for actors and it was so much fun just seeing a movie like kind of in fast forward because I had to do it quickly, but just putting together like different works of an artist or a talent and being able to like to have 2 minutes of work. So I think for me, it really showed me like the different scales to what, an actor can portray. And one time I remember I was really, really rushed and I had to get a tape of this actor. I can't even remember who it was, but I didn't watch the entire movie and fast forward because I had to get it done. So I put these scenes together, gave it to my boss, and she came in yelling at me and she's like, "What are you doing? You like missed the best scene." And I was like, "He dies. He dies." They're like, "No, he doesn't." And so that was like my teaching moment to always, always go all the way through because you never know what twists and turns there are in a film.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, uh, Talking about those clips, my actual first job in the entertainment business was as an assistant at a talent agency, and that was part of what we had to do also is when we were submitting an actor or actress for a film project, and it was before the audition process, they just wanted to see who the
Mhm.
person was, what they could do, especially if it was somebody who was very like a lot less well known.
Exactly.
And, you take like a clip from them being on a soap opera and a clip from a commercial and maybe a walk on spot on Law and Order or whatever it was. And you put it on this little reel and you send it to the casting director.
Yep.
And I did the exact same thing. I would sit in a dub room, pick scenes, and put them onto a tape. So I remember doing that. Absolutely.
It's so
Yeah.
wild because I think that the casting process has become so incredibly different. Back in the day, you really needed to showcase someone's talent, and now it's about social media numbers.
Right.
So it's such a weird world where, there are a lot of actors that are just so prolific and so wonderful, but if you're not kind of participating in this social world, sometimes you'll be overlooked, which was not the case back in the day.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
I mean, look, they're using actors that haven't had any experience before in film, like adolescents, right?
yep. Yep.
So you don't always have to have a reel.
Yeah. Well, I will say, and I think like Perry knows this very well just from doing this. It's really interesting. I think we've got this generation of people that like are like, oh, I want to be on YouTube or I want to act or blah blah blah. And I think what's so important about and I know we'll get to talent in a minute. The casting process is that everyone's like, oh, I can really be in front of the camera, like I'm good. And then you turn a camera on and people freeze. And I think one of the things when you're in casting or what Vinny Potestivo did, like looking for hosts, you can really kind of spot who's going to make it and who isn't. Because I think when people think of themselves, they're like, oh, I have a great personality. I can totally figure it out. But the minute a camera turns on, it just shifts somebody's ability and keeping a conversation going, right? Like people freeze. So that's like one of the greatest things of being on the casting and looking for host side is you can really talk through and work with somebody on if you think they're going to make it or not.
At VH1, I did some of the host casting stuff, and I remember we had the session, probably had like 20 or 30 people come through. But I remember this guy came in. We didn't end up hiring him, but he made such an impression on me, and it ended up being Will Arnett. And
Oh,
Oh,
it's
wow.
really?
like, I'm like, okay, like that's how you know somebody's special when you actually remember them from like a casting call
Yeah.
of like 30 people. And he just had that spark about him. He had that something about him. He wasn't right for what we were looking for, but I totally knew he was going to end up doing something.
Yeah.
And he did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was a big one. Behind the scenes at MTV a little bit, was your team split between like actors and musicians, or did you just,
So
how did you run that?
So I had moved myself. I was at Nickelodeon and I moved myself to New York because I wanted to move up in my career and they needed a freelance booker for Teen Nick.
Mhm.
So I was leaving a safe staff position to move to New York. And I lasted there for 6 months and they canceled the show.
Oh,
So by random and beautiful coincidence, MTV was looking for someone that was both celebrity and music.
Okay.
So I think what a lot of people don't remember is that I was actually on the celebrity and the music team. So I was on Robin Reinhardt's team and Joanna Bomberg's team. So they needed somebody to book TRL because Robin had moved to LA, and they needed somebody to do all of the other music bookings for MTV2, MTVU, MTV Hits. So anything that the music team was too busy working on something else that they couldn't get. And it was like easy to throw me in because I knew a lot of the labels already from being at Nickelodeon. But on the team, it was a very small team. So basically it was everything, TV, film. And then obviously on the music side, you guys handled that. And then anything that was other on one of the other networks, I would take care of.
So what was, there must have been an overwhelmingly amount of organization and kind of talent to manage when booking for these shows. So, and were a lot of the bookings kind of promotional, or were they paid, and how did you negotiate that?
This is what's so wild is that everything back in the day was promotional.
Okay.
I don't know that I
missed out on a lot of money.
Yeah, a lot. But I don't think that promotional or partnerships came along until the influencer world really blew that lid open. But I will say I'm a wonderful multitasker. That's like one of my superpowers. And when I got to TRL, it was such a well-oiled machine, right? Like it had been on for 6 years, I believe, and it was like the go-to place, right? Like in New York, you went to TRL and you went to Letterman. So, when I got there, it was, studios and networks and publicists were just emailing me. And at that point, it was just really working with the studios, the MTV studio calendar and the films that were coming out and making sure that we were getting, really the premiere placement and or something that was special, because at that time, that MTV TRL audience was so rabid for, fandom and celebrity and music. So we really needed to make sure that if somebody was coming through New York, we were either getting that first look or we were getting like a special clip. And so it was really partnering with the studios and making sure, well, what are we getting? And is this going to be the first appearance? But it was really kind of a well-oiled machine when I got there. And if there was somebody that wasn't ready for that, MTV had so many other properties that I could put them on that it ended up working well for everybody.
It was, and we've said this almost every single episode. At that time, you had to go on MTV and almost specifically TRL if you wanted to hit the audience that was going to go see your movie on opening weekend and make you number one at the box office.
100%.
That was the audience. And now it's so fragmented. I mean, you can be kind of anywhere. I mean, box office also isn't what it used to be either. But I mean, there isn't really that one place that everybody has to go to these days in order to hit that teen audience or hit that audience that is going to go to the film. Yeah,
Exactly. I think it's so interesting because, that was a really special time in television and time to be young and or to be us and work in this area, because I know years later they brought it back and it just didn't do the same. And I think, and one of the things I will say is I do think that Carson Daly brought such a great hosting, love for music, love for celebrity. I think he was the perfect host at the perfect time. And then you brought in all of these secondary players. But I really think it was a combination of the fandom, like the fact that it was must-see TV, the fact that we had a brilliant host and someone that could have conversations with artists. And I've worked at many other places that have tried. I worked at every other basically music television network, from Revolt to Mundos to Nickelodeon, BET, and I think everyone's always like, how do we make TRL happen again? I don't think it could ever happen again. I don't think there's a place for that anymore.
Well, yeah, TV was at a different time. It wouldn't happen because of everyone's watching other platforms, and you don't have to tune in for a destination. You want to know something, you can look it up at 5 a.m. But did you ever realize when you were working at MTV that you were booking for the biggest show in live entertainment to
Oh,
a massive demographic?
it was my dream job. Like,
Right.
I couldn't believe I got hired
And you
there.
knew how big it was. It was like,
It was huge, and it didn't ever like every day I would wake up and I just felt so lucky. I would walk from my Upper East Side apartment and pretty much skip through all the way here because I just thought I'm
it's
so
amazing.
lucky, and these are
Right.
such special moments, and it's a fabric of pop culture. Like, pop culture doesn't exist without MTV, and it definitely doesn't exist without TRL for
Well,
sure.
well, the fact that on any given day you could have the biggest music artist from any genre, the biggest film artist, the biggest TV personality, and who knows who else, maybe someone from sports, all in this tiny little studio in Times Square. And I mean, and it just happened every single day. I mean, that's the amazing part about
It
it.
became normal. It became a normal
It
day.
became a normal day.
And it became home to a lot of artists. I mean,
It,
I
yeah.
remember like I would just come down to prep before a show and I'd be walking through the halls, making sure everything was set up, and 50 Cent would be walking through, giving people hugs. Like, it just became this space where I think artists felt at home. And I think this is why I love Carson, even though I actually got there when Carson had left, is because, artists want to feel like they're home. And I really think that TRL was a big fat hug for them because it was like, yeah, you got salacious, but it wasn't about being salacious. It was about cherishing the moments of music and or a film that you were a part of and watching the fans. Like, that was one of my favorite things to do, is to, when we were taping, just watch the kids and watch how excited they would get about whoever was there and how close they were able to get to either a celebrity or an artist.
Well,
Yeah.
I thought the best thing about Carson too was that he never seemed to talk down to the audience, even as much as like he probably was like, "Oh my God, they're going so crazy over Britney or Christina or NSYNC or whoever." But he never made anybody feel like silly or stupid or bad about being that big of a fan. He celebrated it.
Yep.
He was there to be sort of your surrogate to introducing you to these artists. He was like everyone's favorite big brother
Yeah,
almost. Yeah.
definitely.
Yeah.
And I think everyone that came after him, I think he ended up being like the one you wanted to emulate because he was so great at it.
Yep. Yep. And that's why he's had the career that he's had too. On the celebrity talent side, you guys had to book for a lot of shows. Movie awards and the VMAs were like the two big ones. So is there one get for one of those shows or something else that you were able to land that surprised even you?
Yeah. I think it was such, not for nothing, it was such an easy get all the time that I think it wasn't about it being a hard get. It was about having the moment come together that was hard. And I think one of the best moments that I remember was in 2005, we did a Breakfast Club reunion. And it was a
Right.
very difficult reunion to get together. I think it was because a lot of them either weren't speaking or they just lived in different areas. And I remember just being really excited and proud when that moment was going to come to fruition. And all of the pieces were there, everybody was there, and Judd Nelson leaves. Um,
I remember that.
and so it was one of those things where you're like, oh my God, we're taping a show live to tape right now. And one of the talent left. And I believe Raquel had to go figure out how to get him back because she had a relationship working with him prior. And I want to say, if I remember correctly, we ended up having that moment without him, unfortunately. But it was about being able to get them all there in a world where, you know, I think MTV did anniversaries the best and did celebrations of these type the best. Different story now. And interestingly enough, this year they did the 40th anniversary, and the cast of Breakfast Club came together again. But we did the 20th
Yeah,
anniversary.
I saw that. It was at one of those, like, 80s cons in Florida or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I think
But
Emilio finally joined them.
yeah.
Yeah. Was there a time when you booked somebody for a show, but it wasn't announced and it was a secret?
So it wasn't as much of a secret, because I think always saying who was going to be on is what we needed at the time.
Yep.
I will say that Tom Cruise, whenever Tom Cruise came through, that was always a very, very special moment. And so that was one that really had to be logistically set up correctly. Like, I'd have to have a walkthrough with his security before we'd have to walk the building. It was funny. We were having a music meeting one day, and they had asked for my bookings, and Tom was coming in, and Tom Calderon was like, "Can I come down?" And I was like, "I'll have to see. It's a closed set." And I remember thinking, what am I thinking? Telling him that he can't come down. But I think those Tom moments, he's still such a big star, but there was just something about moments with him in particular that just made TRL go wild.
And I think the thing with him also is, yes, there's a lot of prep that goes into it, but he actually himself is probably not very difficult. He seems like he's pretty
Lovely.
easygoing, is up for doing kind of almost anything you want him to do, and which is rare for a big star like that.
Yeah, he was brilliant to work with. And I think that's one of the things that I loved but also hated about booking on TRL, is that they always had this like stunt that they wanted to do with the talent. And so we'd have to pitch it through to the studios or the networks and get their buy-in. And he was somebody that was up for anything. And I think he just
not everything.
Huh?
Not everything. We heard from Rob Dixter that there was a stunt. I think it was with the movie Samurai, right, Perry? And there was some
Oh yeah,
thing where he would hold a samurai sword and rip through this like big poster thing, and he wouldn't hold the sword, so he just burst in the picture.
Yeah, he was saying that would be, the samurai sword was sacred, and he didn't want to sort of abuse the meaning behind what the sword was, which I get, obviously. Yeah.
Well, I never had that experience with him. I actually remember, though, and Rob would remember this, when he and Katie were dating, and how the vibe was every time like they were there together. It was a really interesting time where the relationship was like, people had questioned it. But, I remember, I think he brought her donuts or something, and then, or cupcakes. She loves cupcakes. And he came to surprise her on set, the TRL set. And then I'm like standing right there, and they're like, they just start kissing in front of me. And I'm literally standing right there. And I'm like, this is such a surreal moment, because, she had been with Chris Klein for so long, and he had, obviously been with Nicole, but it was this like shocking relationship that I think nobody understood. And to be kind of on the front end of being like, oh, this is a real thing, and they're right in front of my face.
And the funny thing is that anybody else would have been like the first person to like call some like gossip person and say, I just saw Tom Cruise and Katie Holmes together. But that wasn't what we could do. I mean, this was our job, and we weren't there to sort of spread news or gossip. We were just there to facilitate getting them to do what they needed to do while they were there.
Yep. And I also think that that's why people loved coming there, is because people would come through and you'd say hi, and they may have the celebrities may have not known your names, but they knew your faces.
Yeah.
And I think I left right before, kind of like, I don't want to call it a downfall, because there was never that, but when times started to change, right? You had Perez Hilton and people like him coming through, where they were now being gossipy. And so I was in the studio one day, and because you could say or do whatever you wanted backstage, and no one would ever know because we were buttoned up. And Lindsay Lohan was there, and she was having a private moment, which whenever, people were having private moments, I think we were all really good about just like walking away, just because we were like, we're not going to be part of that. Well, Perez happened to be there one day
wow.
when Lindsay was there and decided to listen in on our conversation and posted whatever that was. And I got an earful from her publicist, rightfully so. And I was profusely apologizing. I was like, I am so incredibly sorry. Like, I don't know how this happened. And like I said, it was this moment where the tide started to change and people like Perez were coming through. And so instead of having, Getty Images or whatever there, I think press was inviting people like him, but there had never been a moment where something had been leaked because that wasn't the way we worked it.
Did he leak on Twitter back then, or how did he put it out?
There wasn't even Twitter then,
right? Or something.
No.
He had a website.
Correct.
Yeah.
So he just put it on there. But that was acting early stages of, social media.
Yeah.
Was Sloan her publicist at the time?
Yep.
Yeah.
I thought you were going to flip the story and say Perez went in and offered a shoulder for her to cry on.
Oh no, I can't imagine that ever happening.
And that's what's interesting about how wonderful it was there, is that there was this like security and sense of, you come in, you go to the green room, you take your photo in the photo booth, you meet the other talent that are on. And it was always just a fun vibe. I mean, I remember a young Chris Brown coming through. He was going on, he was booked through the music team. And I happened to, I had booked Jennifer Aniston for something she was in. And I happened to hear him say to someone, "Oh my God, I'd love to meet her. I've never met her before." And I said, "Do you want to meet her?" And it's just like those special moments. He's kind of an unknown. She's a huge superstar. I think there's a photo that Getty or somebody got of them together. And it's just one of those moments where you're like, oh, we make moments happen. And that is why we got into doing this.
And also too, it was pre social media, but pre people having cell phones too and cameras. And it was, as you said before, it was a safe space. It was a space they knew that they could come, be themselves backstage, have a good time on the set, and then leave after and know that they were going to be welcomed back anytime that they wanted to.
Yeah, for sure. And I don't know. I just think they just felt fun and safe. I mean, I remember, and I don't know if Rob's told any of these stories, but like Matthew McConaughey had come on once. I can't remember what film it was, but they had given him some bongos to play during one and we had the time that we taped was like right before Letterman taped. So a lot of times we'd have like 15-minute hard in and outs where, I'd have to get the artists, get them in, prep them on the way, get them on stage and get them out. Well, we go to commercial break. And that's when I was supposed to pull Matthew to get him to his publicist to get him out. And he just starts to play the bongos. And his publicist is like, just let him be. Right. And I was like, and that was what made it so fun. It was like people just were in the moment and they stayed, and there was no phones to keep you distracted. It was just you and 120, kids, and you're just having a good time and you're just feeling the moment. And that doesn't happen anymore.
Wasn't there another story of him at some other time playing bongos, like at his home or something? I remember that happening.
Maybe, but it was, I mean, I think I want to say he took his shirt off and everything, and he's just playing the bongo.
Was this backstage or was this live on air?
Well, we had gone to commercial break.
Okay.
So during the commercial break was when I was going to pull him out of the audience.
Right.
And get him to, his publicist so that he can get out and go. And he was just in the moment. And that happens so often.
You come back from a commercial break and Matthew McConaughey's there topless playing bongo.
So I think he ended up getting out like 5 minutes late, but at that point it's not on me.
Exactly. I mean, you do what you can do, and that's once it's out of your hands,
As long as
Absolutely.
my people are happy. And
Right.
by the way, it's being in our roles, it's difficult because our goal and our role is to ensure we get the right moment. But then we also have this other person that we're having to make happy and make sure that they are in and out on time and have everything they need. And it's like a really, it's a push pull.
And it can be stressful too. I mean, it can be like you've got, I mean, whatever time constraints you're under aren't always what production's time constraints are or what the talent's time, everybody has a different agenda and you have to make it work for everybody. And that's when you know you're good. And it's also the hardest part of that type of a job too.
Yeah, I think I learned a ton at MTV and at TRL. I think because we had such really amazing producers. Like they were really like top notch, and you know that by where half of them are now. Like
Hmm.
they all have these brilliant careers. But I remember Orlando Bloom was in. He had his 15-minute Heart Out, and myself and I can't remember. I think it was Courtney. They needed him to do some more stuff. So I grab Orlando's arm. Courtney grabs his other arm. And we're kind of playing tug of war with Orlando. And I'm like, he's got to go. She's like, he's got to stay. Realize is that all of this is being aired in the control room. And I was like, holy crap. Like, because you don't know who's watching at any given moment. You don't know
Right.
what. And so I think we ended up letting him stay for like whatever production needed him excuse me. But I just remember in my head, one of the moments that I remember for the rest of my life, I'll remember is tug of war with Orlando Bloom. And he just said, no, do I look left? Do I look right? Do I go? Do I stay? But it's probably it was a great teaching moment for me because then I found out everybody was watching and I was like, ooh, that was probably not the right move,
Right.
but it is what it is. And here we are.
Exactly.
Did you find yourself more gravitated towards actors or the music side?
So I have always been a celebrity lover. Like for me, film and TV has been my thing. But as I moved through in my career, I have to say that music has become a bigger part of my life because after I left MTV and went on to these other places, I've just been able to be a part of so many big live performances or live events. And I think for me, being able to witness a live performance is just such a beautiful, beautiful thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's where it shifted after I left MTV from celebrity to more music in terms of what I enjoyed a little more.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's a good segue because we're going to put you through a quick fire round.
Oh, can't wait.
What was your first concert?
New Kids on the Block.
Okay. Where was that?
I want to say it was at the Forum.
Okay. That's a good one. A classic. You must have a favorite movie.
Oh, Pretty in Pink.
Okay.
Yeah, that would be one of my top 5 probably too.
Yeah.
Do you remember the first album you bought or were?
It was a Madonna True Blue record, 45. I still have it.
Wow.
Nice.
All right.
What's your biggest starstruck moment?
Oh, I really
Tom Cruise?
Dave Grohl. No, Dave Grohl.
Ah.
At the 2005 movie awards, he was performing, and his Lou Robinson had him and he says, "I'm going to introduce you to Dave, but I'm going to need you to keep it chill." And I don't know. There's something beautiful about that man. That was
nice.
my moment.
You've worked at streaming platforms before and music companies, but where do you learn about new music today?
Well, I do. I still
Spotify. Fuck you.
I will say Apple, but because that's who I get my music through.
Sure.
But also I think social media, right? Like a lot of you get it through scrolling through TikTok or Instagram or.
It's true. I learned about Lola Young who's not like massive, but she's having a bit of an indie ride. I learned her through just streaming through Instagram Reels.
Yep. She's
So
going to be at Coachella this weekend too.
she is. Yep, yep. Who's your favorite artist right now?
You know, I really love Benson Boone. I just love
that's
his
a good one.
voice. I love him so much.
Do you have a favorite new celebrity, a movie star?
Oh,
I love the girl. I always forget her name with the big teeth from the White Lotus.
Oh,
oh,
Amy Lou Wood.
Yeah,
she's such a sweet kid.
she's so cool.
I feel so bad about that SNL moment.
I know.
I don't know. I'd have to come back to you because I'm watching so many things right now that it just all, here's what I will say is, so like, I feel like back in the day, there was like Tom Cruise, Brad Pitt, like these huge names. And I feel like there's no king or queen, like Nicole Kidman comes back, but there's just a lot of them.
That's right. Yeah.
I feel like a Glenn Powell could sort of be in that space. I mean, he's kind of almost there, but I don't know if he's like Tom Cruise level. But I mean, the fact that he was in Top Gun and then he's had so much success after that.
Oh, you know who? Is it Jenny Slate, the girl that was in Dying for Sex?
Yeah.
Oh, she's so great. I love her. That series is amazing, by the way, but I would say her. She's really great.
What's the favorite show that you're watching right now?
What I'm watching right now is, I'm watching Handmaid's Tale and White Lotus. So I would say White Lotus, Handmaid's Tale, and Reacher.
Yeah.
Reacher, wow, okay.
I just watched the finale of Daredevil.
Oh, I haven't seen that. I haven't watched that.
And I'm watching Paradise on Hulu Disney, which is I love those kind of series. But I'm almost done. I think I got like 2 episodes left.
You guys,
I'm gonna go trashy. I'm watching Good American Family.
Oh, I saw the documentary on that one too.
See, I haven't seen the documentary, so I don't even know how the real story.
Don't watch it. Because I just stopped because I watched it.
But I have to say, I'm loving like a bitchy Ellen Pompeo, which is amazing.
Here's what I'll say though. This is probably not for you. Maybe Lauren, Andrew, for you. Dying for Sex. I'm telling you, such a great
I've seen it show up.
I've seen 2 episodes so far.
Oh, Perry, it's so good. Michelle Williams, brilliant. It's so good.
Yeah. All right, I will continue watching.
Yes.
The last question you answered early on, but for shits and giggles, the best festival that you've been to?
Stagecoach.
Yeah.
I'm a country girl through and through, which I wasn't until about 10 years ago. Actually, the reason I even am a country fan is because there was a job at CMT that I was interviewing for, and I didn't know anything about country. And I was like, I guess I better listen to it. And that was like in 2010.
That's exactly when I got into country. I was the country lead at Vivo, and I did that for 3 years. And I was like, oh God, I can't believe I have to do this. And I was like, I love going to Nashville. I love going to shows. I love this music. You know what? The thing that I love about country artists is, that they're real musicians. Like, there's no faking it there. There's no like, I don't know. I mean, I'm not putting anybody down, but with a country artist, that they're a songwriter, they're a musician, they're a singer. Like, there's nothing there that's artificial in my beliefs. Yeah.
So there's and maybe there's a little more now because of like the genre shifting and so many people going into different areas. But what I will say is, in about 7 years ago, I helped launch Apple Music, one of Apple Music Country's shows, Today's Country. And we did this full day of like interviews in Nashville. And I was pretty new to like working with artists, right? I love the genre. I just hadn't worked with them. So we had everyone from Luke Bryan to Sam Hunt to, you name it, that artist was there. Keith Urban, who is my absolute favorite. And I remember, we're used to artists coming with their teams, and there's like 20 deep and there's 15 cars. And it was an artist jumping out of his truck
Yeah.
LA can take it and walking in by themselves. And it just was such an aha moment of like, this is really, this is really like a neat space to be in where it just is people getting together as friends and family and not having a ton of people around them.
Well, I also think, it's like in Nashville, it's a pretty small community, so people don't bat an eye when they see somebody either. It's like you can go out and do that. You can go to the grocery store, you can go to, you know, a gym, and people are like, there's, Keith Urban or, Brad Paisley or whoever, Tim
Yeah.
McGraw, and people are like, yeah, I just see him all the time. So
I think there's a certain vibe about Texas and the South. You could go into a grocery store and you get two strangers just meet and have a conversation, but you wouldn't get that in like New York or LA. It'll be weird if people were talking to you that don't know you, right? But I think there's already that built into the culture, so it's almost amplified in the music scene.
it's also one of the most revered performance spaces in Nashville is the Bluebird Cafe. And I mean, it's where, the beginners play. And there's also people like, Miranda Lambert will just show up one night and perform. I mean, they don't need to be necessarily I mean, yes, they play stadiums and all of that stuff, but they're willing to go to these places because it's where the local industry hangs out, and it's where people go just to see good music. So
Yeah.
We've talked about part of your job was movie and film and working with studios, in contact with them about upcoming movie releases. And were you part of the brainstorming, trying to figure out campaigns and stunts and things for them to do? Maybe it was TRL, or
Yeah.
maybe they were hosting. Was there one kind of top achievement that you were like, holy shit, I really helped kickstart that?
The one that I will say was High School Musical. I was really the first one to book them on an appearance, and they came on TRL, and then they just blew up. And I think for me, those are the moments that matter. Is when you've got a publicist. It's like they're not huge, but they're gonna be. And so I think that was one of the moments, and that was one of the things that I loved was bringing on someone that could be nobody and just seeing the way they skyrocket into big fat stars.
Right.
And there was this time, we used to also have to book celebrity guests to host whenever the hosts were away or just for stunts. And I remember Miley Cyrus, already a big fat star, right? Miley Cyrus and Ashley Tisdale were coming in to co-host. And for me, that was a proud moment because I think Miley was, God, she was young. She was maybe 14. She was very, very young. And she was so sweet and cute. And I remember her being very nervous. And she was such a pro. And I mean, you see her now and she's a huge celebrity. So it's interesting to see these moments where you've got someone maybe questioning themselves and then they come out, they do it like a pro, and you see them now and you're like, well, they were always going to be a star. They
Yeah.
always had that
It's amazing.
well,
quality
it's
about
like when Vinny would have like Mandy Moore come on, and she actually ended up like I think hosting quite a few things, or was sort of almost like a permanent guest host for TRL or other shows. And again, she was so young too. She was like 16 at the time. Yeah.
them. Yeah, it's brilliant. I think one of the things that I'm most proud of is seeing artists or celebrities when they're, kind of unknown and then just watching their journey. It's brilliant. It's just such a great thing to be able to know that you were a small part of.
I've
Yeah.
always loved that on the music side, and I think it's so gratifying being part of that developing story, having your hand in, creating that long-term engagement plan. Yes, they could do TRL, but a few months down the road is the VMAs or the movie awards. So how can you, build that long-term relationship with with that artist, and not just the one and done. So
Yeah.
special moment.
I think I gave Sabrina Carpenter her first performance, I believe, when I was at Awesomeness.
Wow.
And it was, Top 5 Live. It was their version of TRL. And she had come on. She was still a Disney star, trying to figure it out. She sang, I can't remember what song. It's on my phone somewhere. An Adele. She's like, can I sing something? We weren't recording. And she sang an Adele song. And I said, this kid is a star.
Nice.
But that was probably in 2016 or 17.
Wow.
So it was
for another 5-6 years to really.
Yeah, it took her opening for Taylor Swift, really.
Yeah.
But that quality and that stardom was always there. It's just a moment that clicks with everyone else. It always blows my mind when you see like an artist who just has vocals that blow you away, and you think, how are they not a star yet?
Right.
Lady Gaga took a minute. Adele took a minute. It's wild.
Yeah. Timing. Is the industry ready for you?
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, even like a Benson Boone, too.
Yep.
I mean, 100%. Yeah, absolutely. How did working at MTV prepare you for all of the subsequent jobs that you've had? And was there one place, company, position that you had that you felt, it was really your opportunity to shine there?
Yeah. MTV was everything. Viacom in general really taught me everything I needed to know about how you present yourself and how you work with an artist. And I think times have definitely really, really changed. But I remember one thing that stuck through me back in the day at MTV was Facebook had just come out. And I remember somebody had taken a picture, and it was not salacious, but it was just weird, and I remember the team having a meeting and leadership basically saying that we don't do that. But for me, that was a really great kind of like a moment of, yeah, we don't do that. And I think it's different now where you can do it in the right moment.
Right.
But it's never, for me, it's never for salacious reasons. It's really just to capture the moment for myself and for memories. But I really do come from an old school type of booker where it's, you have this, job to do, and anything other than that is great at the right moment. I really have to say, being at Dick Clark, when I went over there, the IP is just such gorgeous IP, the Billboard Awards, New Year's Rock Eve. And I was building this team to really be able to be true partners with artists, publicists, managers, and agents. And for me, the time I had there was short, but it was definitely a moment of like, oh my gosh, I've made it to this like brilliant role where I'm overseeing this team and really being able to strategize content and how we work with artists and celebrities. And I think it takes a minute to really understand your craft and what you want your legacy to be. But I think being there really taught me about being able to move pieces in a world that is so different from where I started.
Yep.
And in a world where there's partnerships or just a booking or, strategy, there's different ways to work with artists, and where do you pull the lever? And how do you ensure that you're a spot or a stop that somebody really needs to be a part of?
Yeah.
So I'm really proud of being there and being able, listen, the Golden Globes were in a really bad space with Hollywood when I got there.
Yep.
And I booked that show in 3 weeks, and our ratings were up by about 30 to 40%. So very proud of the work I did there. And it's hard. You guys know it's really hard to work with artists now and make sure that they get the eyeballs that they want and that you want.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It is. They have so many places to go now, and you have to make what you're offering very special to them and very easy for them. And it's going to have to resonate with an audience. So, yeah.
Well, you have to mold the the idea of what that piece of content is to the platform that you're releasing it, right?
Yeah, for sure. And I think also like you know, there was a moment on the Globes that I thought was really great. It was with Will Ferrell and
Was it
um,
Kristen Wiig?
Kristen Wiig.
Yeah.
So they have come to rehearsals and they're like, they really want to do this skit. You're not going to get it because it's in their head. So they rehearsed it and they knew that it was going to be a moment. And I think it's like about the trust of knowing. And so they did the moment and it was fun, right? But it was rehearsals. So, the live show obviously is always way different depending on the mode. And if you guys saw the Golden Globes in 2024, that moment was such a big moment because it was one of those things where the Globes were the first real award show that people were getting together after COVID and
Yep.
after all of that. And so it was just such a fun moment. But to be able to see and be a part of like, we want to do this and then see it go through and be like, oh, that was such a fun moment. Oh, so great.
I feel like the movie awards used to have a lot of those moments too, with big actors who are willing to come on because of the medium and because of the network. They just came on and were like, had a good time with it, I mean, similar to the Kids' Choice Awards, but obviously more geared towards a bit of an older audience.
Yeah,
So
but I really
yeah.
do think it's about trust. I think it's about
Hmm.
MTV built such a trust with everyone outside in Hollywood, and I think when I was at the Globes or New Year's Rockin' Eve, you know what you're going to get when you get there.
Right.
Was there that trust when whoever booked Ricky Gervais for the host and
I
his
was a different team. I wasn't there.
Yeah. Sarah wasn't there for
bravo
that.
though, bravo. No one got fired for that, right?
It's interesting. No, by the way. But I was
A
looking back.
promotion maybe.
Yeah, before we got on the call, and I was like, who hosted the movie awards? And I just remember, even when you have someone like Jimmy Fallon, like look at his career and where he is. And I remember back in the day, Jimmy Fallon wasn't a household name.
No.
We were taking a chance, and he's just like that personality that just like understands how to entertain any
Yeah.
anybody.
Absolutely.
He can also make his guests feel like comfortable, like you're just two friends having a chat, and he can be silly and bring out that silliness out of his guests as well.
For sure.
Because he does some stupid stuff, but it's funny, and because they're both doing it, it just makes great TV.
100%.
We have one final question, which you mentioned that kind of feeling seeing live music. Do you have a favorite New York or LA venue, or is there one show that just sticks out? Was it a Foo Fighters show maybe?
I saw Adele at the Greek in the first row, and that was pretty brilliant. But conversely, I saw Metallica at Petco, and that was brilliant. I think for me, it's just about live music and being able to be in the moment and being able to just vibe out no matter what the genre is. I just love being at a live show. I don't need to talk to you. I don't need to look at you. I just need to enjoy it.
Yeah.
I think of live music today, and I know how I am at live shows. When I see people watching a show through their phone, I'm like, what? Why? It's right there. Live it. Don't record it.
Yeah.
I mean, what are you going to do with it? I mean,
you're never going to go home and start watching those clips. My daughter films so much of literally a whole show, and does she go back and listen and watch those? Probably not.
But kids consume things so incredibly different. And
yeah,
listen, I have feelings about when artists have you lock your phone up, but there's something so beautiful and fulfilling about, from the artist perspective, being able to watch you enjoy the show. And then from the audience perspective, conversely, like just being able to be in the moment the way we used to be when there wasn't that, you know.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It is. It's, it, listen, it's never going to go backwards, but I can still have the experience that I want to have, regardless of what the experience everybody else is having at that show. So,
Yeah.
Well, I think I like to relive the moment on social because it's almost the best of the best ends up coming across my feed. Clips from the show, the festival. So
But that's what I realized. Let other people record it. You enjoy it in the moment.
exactly.
exactly.
Then if everyone did that, no, there's social teams there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, this has been amazing, and it
This
goes
has been
quick.
awesome. Thank you, Sarah. This was
So
great.
yeah. Congrats on the podcast. I've listened to all them and they're great. It's
Thank
just
you so much. We appreciate it. Yeah,
It was a great time, and we want to get back to that feeling of how we know the industry's different, and that kind of team collaboration may be a little different today, but that feeling of being in a position that you're kind of part of something big,
yeah,
we
for sure.
always long for.
Yeah.
For sure.
And as we close out, I just want to remind the audience to like and review and rate and follow the podcast
Subscribe,
so
do
that
it
you
all.
get
Yeah.
that you get alerted every time we drop a new episode.
Yes, Perry's got a special prize to give away. No, I'm kidding.
I was like, shit, I don't know. What do I have?
Comment, like, and reshare. And yeah.
Yeah. All right.
The first 50 people are going to get a birthday song by Perry.
You don't want to hear me sing.
No.
Anyway, well, thank you very much, Sarah. We appreciate it.
Have a
Great
great
to chat.
weekend.
Bye.
Thank you. You too.
Bye, guys.
Bye.